What's up, everybody? We back with another message, another video. Thank you to all my new subscribers and future new subscribers. You know we do nothing here without God because everything is spiritually led by God over here. We cover the world from a spiritual and physical aspect to get the raw, real, and uncut answers. Whatever words you hear, anything you see, may you test the spirits, aka take those words and visuals back to God in prayer. I mean it, and I mean what I say when I say it. Build that relationship with God because there are many Decepticons running around in these end times, and they will get you at your vulnerable states. So I don't know what I'm doing with this word right now, but I just started talking to God and talking about something that's formed into a message. So I'm just gonna talk, okay? As I was talking to God, because He said He loved when I naturally just start talking, because that's some of my best stuff that come out that sometimes get formed into messages. Some of y'all don't get to hear because it's just me and God. But I'm gonna continue on. So I was telling God, talking to God about people not understanding me from every which end and every which way. And, you know, when I didn't upload last weekend, I was kind of having a more slower, after the beginning of the week, it was kind of just about God focusing on me because I was really thinking about the stuff that I had to let go and how I did miss certain people in my life, but I understood why. And not all those people were bad that I had to let go. It's just they were a part of my life that was no longer me, and I had to let it go. And so, you know, I just thought about some of those people that I helped and how God used me before I even became a messenger, before I even knew a lot about God's word, and how I impacted their lives, you know, without realizing God was using me as a messenger. But also just when it came to family, how like people just don't understand you. And it's like I was like telling him, everybody around me don't understand. Like, it's not that I've told everybody what I do, but or the stuff that God has had me doing and how I can have dreams and visions. But I thought about it. I said, if I was to go and try to tell people, sometimes I would joke, like not be sarcastic, but I would just say certain things just to see how people would respond. And they would kind of laugh it off. You know, like I do send warnings to friends and not family, but friends, particularly that God has had me send warning to, and of course look after family. But, you know, just explaining to your family like what God is having you do and who you are, it's, you know, people will go, well, it's like I just don't know a lot about you anymore, so tell me. And when you start trying to tell them, and you start talking about God, it just turns into this whole thing of, okay, this just sounds crazy, or, okay, I don't know, you know, like you need help type deal. And it's just like, but you asked me to tell you about myself, so I did. And you don't even believe me, even if I told you. You know, so I'm thinking about all the things that I got put through, and I just come to a realization, well, I've been came to it, but in that moment, I came to a realization with God, because God was telling me, he's like, you trust me, right? And I said, yeah. And he's saying, it's okay. I see everything you going through. And I will never forget, I know it was, oh my goodness, Michael was there. God was talking to me, because I really was feeling some type of way over those past 2 days. I was. And, you know, Michael was just like, hey, just understand, you know, God is proud of you for everything that you've done. And we are always going to be here for you. That's why I tell y'all I love my heavenly family. I say the heavenly family, God, Jesus, and the angels, because they all play a role in protecting us and being there for us. And I just be feeling so connected to them. And then I just started thinking, I'm like, you right, people ain't going to understand me. And I would never forget that analogy with the X-Men that God gave me, saying they go and save the world, but have to hide who they are because people will try to lock them up. They want them dead. You know, they scared of being called crazy by the people close to them, everything. And that's what we go through. We really go through, like, to the point where we almost be hiding, just doing. It's not that we are ashamed of God, but because we don't want people to try to lock us up that's close to us saying we need help. It's like you have to just go in your own time and do things. And that's why I record a lot in my own time, away from people, because it's the safest way for me to do it, you know? And I had somebody say, oh, I want to hear this what happened. So one of my messages I was listening to, a part of, it linked to the TV somehow. Now, I didn't hit that. And it was a part, I think it was the video about how God gave me vindication over my 7-month journey. And the part where I talk about people mocking, scoffing, and laughing at you was playing on the TV. And I didn't even realize it. And I walked down, and, you know, people looking at me like, we heard what you said. And I said, I'm sorry. We heard what you said about, and that was you talking in the message. And then, you know, do people mock and scoff and laugh at you? I said, yeah, they will. And so my mom goes, I want to listen to it. But see, I tried to tell her once before, like, about what I do, but because she just wasn't processing it correctly. Now, I love my parents. I really do. And I understand that from a parental standpoint. You know, the world is so backwards when you get raised a certain way. You think the way of success is the worldly ways. You don't understand, like, God will pull you out to do things. So I just could not talk to people about what I do. I can't. And I thought about it. I said, all I had was God around me to really talk to about who I am, what I'm doing, because people won't receive it. And it would be times where I would be standing up in my position, standing up to my own parents when it came to how God got me still. And it's not one of those situations where you can avoid it. Like, no, God sets this stuff up to test you. Like, I had to have these conversations. It wasn't no walking away from nothing. Like, so I said, you know what? Okay. And I would say it, and it just was not perceived well. People, you know, and then, you know, sometimes my parents would think, oh, are you being influenced by a person? That's the first thing people go to. Who are you listening to? And it's like, God. And then, you know, you would get people that say, you sure you're not hearing from the devil? And it's like, that used to really tick me off, because people used to say, well, what happens if the voice tells you to kill somebody? I'm like, that used to actually make me mad, because I'm like, God will never tell you to do that. Like, what are you saying to me right now? But I had to understand in my earlier days that people just didn't get it, and they just won't. And you just have to be okay with people not being understanding of who you are, you know? And I just come to terms to just know all I need is God. I really feel so connected with God and that Jesus and the angels, the heavenly family. Like, oh, it be times where I be trying to go to sleep, and I kid you not, I will hear Michael talking to me. He will come down, talk to me. He been doing it a lot. And he will come down and he will start talking to me, and then I'll just go to sleep because I'm so concentrated on what he's saying. I don't know what they be doing, but man, them angels will knock you out. Y'all ever, before you go to sleep, you start praying and you just yawn every single time? That's God saying, I'm trying to show you something, my child. Now take your butt to sleep after this prayer. But for real, and I just feel that sense of calm restoration, because the devil be trying to keep you up and stuff. So, man, all I be needing is God. And you just got to come to terms with, like, that's all you need. You know, people not going to understand. Even with this YouTube stuff, you get people that don't know you, may not perceive your messages well, may not perceive you well. And to that, you know, I just was telling God, I don't even care what people think of me, because I don't even do this YouTube. This YouTube wasn't for me. It's for God. It's to help people. This has nothing to do with me. I mean, maybe to help God progress what he's going to have me do, but this has nothing to do with me. This isn't about me at all. And that's part of the reason why I've chosen not to be monetized, because, and I'm not saying people that aren't monetized are, doing it for themselves. People still got to make it some way, and God will set them up in their journey that way. Okay. The reason I chose not to be monetized is because I want to make it so if I do end up having to use something to give you guys more of a visual, that I'm not getting paid off of that. Because, YouTube be acting up. So I try to just give myself as much creative freedom to do for God as I can. And God has his own way to bless me. So, you would just get people that just perceive you in the wrong way and just can't seem to understand that God is giving you dreams and visions, because they just don't understand. They ignorant to the word. They ignorant to all of the spiritual aspects, and they don't have a strong relationship with God. And you have to understand that. And that's when it comes down to my parents. Like, I understand it just being parents, wanting to see success for a child, their child, no matter how old you are. And I respect that. But they just won't understand. The thing about my dad, though, he prays. Both of my parents have introduced me to God as when I was younger. So they did their part, and they both still mention Jesus, God. My dad prays every night before he go to bed. But one thing that gave me about my dad is I honestly believe my dad was supposed to be the same thing as me, because he used to tell me about dreams that he had with God as a child, because he didn't really have a true father figure in his life. So God would play with him in his sleep, like a father's son. It's just, and I would never forget sitting downstairs when the power had went out for a brief moment. And God said, remind him about the time when I used to play with him in the dreams when he was a child. It was like a father-son's moments in their dreams. And I told my dad, and he said, how you know that? And I said, because God just told me. And then he said, well, maybe you are, maybe God did pick you. But then it's like months later, he kind of reverted back to, God ain't tell you to do that. He'll agree with certain things, and I can tell him more things than I can tell my mom, but he just don't understand it because he's more of a logical mindset. He told me he asked God for a son, and God sent him a blue jay, and that's how he knew. So my dad has had these type of experiences as well, so he gets it, but he don't understand it because he hadn't went full throttle with it. And that be getting on my nerves. I'd be like, how you telling me this as a kid, but then when I explain to you my stuff, you be calling, you say God ain't gonna do this. But that's just because they don't understand, and I've come to terms with that, and I'm okay with that. And I feel better about that. And the devil will use these type of things to attack you. And I've had to learn how these attacks come through so that I could essentially conquer them. So now every time I get compared to another person, because I'm where I'm at currently waiting on God, and one of my older cousins get brought up or about how they went in this job and went in that job and did this and did that, they say, well, at some point you can do this and do that, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, okay, whatever. Like, God has got another plan for me, and he's doing it for a reason. I'm not meant to do that, but I don't say it. I don't feel like going through that all over again. So I was like, I'm just gonna let you go. And then I'm just in my head like, oh my goodness, okay. Okay, whatever. Okay, I know what God got in store for me. I just leave that in my head. I just learned to do that now. But see, I've only been in this for 7 months. And sometimes I forget, like, it's been 7 months. It's a good period, but it's still a very beginner phase. And it's a lot of stuff, like, I get hit with persecution, but I haven't faced this big wave of persecution yet. Not to the level of people that's been doing this for years. So it's just, I don't know. This was kind of just a message about being okay with people not understanding you, and just know that God got you. And and that's another thing, God blessed me with this platform so I could speak on things like this. Because there will be people that do get what I'm talking about, and will be people that's going through what I'm going or went through and could be going through, and you will understand how to deal with that. So, I'm just understand a lot of people, and oh yes, God put it on my heart right now to speak about love. Many people don't know what love is in this world. They think it's lying to somebody to make them feel good and make them happy, letting somebody do what they want to do because it makes them happy even if it's going to hurt them later and catch up with them and make them unhappy later. When you have God and you feel that Holy Spirit, you really do know what real love feels like. God will be upfront and honest with you, and that's love. You know, prophecy, when people give these messages to get people to turn away, it's love. When people give warning to stop doing what you're doing, it's love, because love is not going to be pretty all the time, okay? Because honesty is not always pretty. And so, a lot of people in this world just don't know what love is like. God gave me a self-evaluation at the end of 2022, and he essentially went through a lot of the things that I needed to work on and things I was doing really well. And one thing God is saying, you're not going to be a perfectionist. Perfectionism is bad. You become obsessed with being perfect, and we won't be perfect at all. So there's always going to be something you need to work on, but when you have God, He going to turn that into a strength. And I encourage everybody to go through a self-evaluation with God, because about He's honest about where you stand as a person. What do you need to work on? And it bettered me in my upcoming journeys. Even when it comes to certain comments with people, God told me, He says, you know what, I know you love to be interactive, but sometimes you are too interactive with people that don't believe what you're saying, and you have a lot of patience. I love that about you, but you're so patient to where you will continue to go on and on and on. It's not arguing, but you will try to get this person to understand because you know the dangers of them not understanding because you care. But He said sometimes you just got to know when to cut it off. Like, sometimes I'm good about it and sometimes I'm not, and that's true. Because I really do I want people to understand the truth about things, but they just may never receive it, and I can't make somebody receive something, even if it means that they're going to be hurt because they don't receive it. I have to let go and just let them go about their way. So that is another thing, me personally, that I know to this day, I just need to stop giving that energy towards people that aren't even receiving. Sometimes I get headway with people, and it's just because I care. But, the same thing with people, the Carrie Ann case, a lot of people were coming crazy at me, but I would still have that patience to understand the person and speak my piece, and up until people started getting disrespectful, and I had to cut that off real quick, because that's one thing about me. Peace out. Bye-bye. Nope, God don't disrespect me the minute you start. And people will take low blows to y'all. A lot of people on this YouTube and stuff, man, before I became a messenger and I saw certain things, people be taking low blows. I'd be like, I had to look at God a couple of times and say, Father, had this been 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been mean, but I would have been very petty. Because some of these people be taking low blows. The minute you take a low blow, oh, it's over with. It's over with. That's grounds to get blocked, because that's provoking you to start going out. You be like, God, ooh, that almost made me say some things to them, I almost said something, but because of you, and I love you, and I know you know that I ain't supposed to be doing this, I ain't gonna do it. I've had to delete some things in comments because I'm so reactive, because it would come off like me being really aggressive. And I'm like, oh, I got to get rid of that. But it is hard, and it's okay for people starting their journey. You're going to have moments like that where somebody say something to you. You're going to be like, let me tell you something about yourself. You better you better come correct because you've lost your mind. But then you delete it and you say, no, I'm just going to get rid of the comment altogether because I don't have time. You get better with stuff like that, and it will affect you. It will. I don't care how strong of a person you are, especially when you're going through the attacks from the devil. Oh, you be ready to go off. Sometimes you be ready to go off on anybody that just say something crazy to you because you so tired of the attacks, and it happens. But you have to keep that patience. That's why it's always good to keep God around. Because I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Some people make some foolish comments, and you know God don't deal with no fool. So don't do it either. You just keep moving. Woo! But yes, I done talked y'all ear off. So I'm gonna end it off here because God wanted me to speak on these experiences because I feel like it's gonna help somebody moving forward, and I hope it does. Peace and blessings, y'all, and I will catch y'all in the next one. All right.
He ran out of luck and now it's my time. Ain't no looking back, I'm on the right track.